Are you considering using project management in your small business, but feeling overwhelmed by all the jargon that you come across? You're not alone. Today I'll unpack 10 of the essential project management terms that project managers use every day. By the end of this video, you'll be speaking project management like a pro. Stick around to the end of this video where I'll tell you about a resource that you can download to help you implement these terms into your business. With years of experience as a project manager and project management trainer, I've helped a lot of small businesses streamline their project management practices and introduce project management into the way that they operate. I'm here to share insights that I've gained over the years to help you transform the way that you manage projects in your business. Let's get started. Right, let's get into the first of the 10 project management terms that I'll share with you today. So the first one is a project. If we're talking about project management, what are we talking about managing? So the textbook definition of a project, it's a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service, or result. So really, it's something that we've got to think about. What is it that we're trying to create that wasn't there before the project, that will be there and add value to the business because we've done the project? What we might also want to think about is what else makes something a project? So if we think of projects, something like building a hotel, definitely a project. What about something like making a sandwich? It still fits the terminology of a project. It's temporary, it's unique. It's a different sandwich than the one we made last week, but we probably wouldn't do things like create a justification to make a sandwich, whereas we would definitely do that for a hotel. So somewhere in between, we will think for our own small business, what's the threshold where we just determine that something is a project versus it's just a task that we're going to do. So that's important, and that's unique to each situation. What's the actual threshold between something being maybe a project with a small p, something that's unique and we can apply project management concepts to, or something that's a project with a capital P, an official project that we really want to do more governance and a bit more budgeting and planning and so on. Speaking of justification, let's have a look at the next term. So you might hear people talking about creating a business case or justification or something similar, feasibility study. These are all similar terms, and it really talks about documents that explain why a project is needed, how it will address a problem. And what we'd be looking at here is what will the project cost us and what benefit will it give us. So we would want to make sure that the benefits outweigh the cost. Is the juice worth the squeeze? As I heard someone say the other day, and I thought that was a really good saying. Is it worth it to do this project? Again, depending on the project, we might do this on a post-it note or something like that, just a little working out. Or if it's quite a big project, we'd need to go into it a bit more in depth and really look at the outlays and the investment, the time it would take to get back that investment, and will it leave the business better off? We've got scarce resources, let's not waste them on projects that are not justifiable. Once we've decided that a project's worth doing, then let's just really firm up what that project is all about and create a project vision. Definition of a project vision, it could be a short statement that describes a project's long-term goal and then also how it fits into the organization's strategy. So a project might feel like a good idea, but is it really in keeping with the direction that we want the business to go in? Again, we've got scarce resources. Let's just think about what's the best place to invest those scarce resources and which project would leave the business better off than other candidate projects that we might be considering. The other way of thinking about this is what's the why of the project? As Simon Sinek would say, start with why. If we can't answer the question, why are we doing this project and what's it going to give us, then let's not do the project. Another important thing to think about is who are the stakeholders of the project. So we can define stakeholders as people or groups that have an interest in a project or that might be affected by it. We could add to that even people that perceive themselves to be affected by a project. So it's really for us to think about who do we need to speak to get their input, whose requirements are we trying to satisfy, and also who might feel that they have a say in our project, even if we might not choose them to be our stakeholders. And those might be the people that come out with their placards and protest outside our new project site. But really we need to anticipate whoever thinks they have an interest or whoever we agree has an interest as well, who has decision-making powers and whose requirements and whose opinions do we need to listen to. The sooner we listen to those opinions, the easier it is to accommodate them. Let's again take a building as an example. If we're building a house and at the moment it's a drawing on a piece of paper, it's quite easy to erase a line and put another line in a different place. But if we've already cast the foundation, or if we've even built the wall already, that's going to be that much harder to just nudge the wall over, even if it's a few centimeters. So really important to consider who our stakeholders are and to engage with them early and often during the project. Next thing we'll talk about is project life cycles. A project life cycle can be defined as a framework that outlines the stages a project goes through from start to finish. If you look at the diagram on the left of our screen now, that is typically what we would call a waterfall life cycle. That's where we do each phase of the project one at a time. For example, here we can see we're doing some sort of preliminary analysis. Systems analysis sounds like a software system. Then we finish our design, then we do the programming, then we do all the testing. If we look at the picture on the right-hand side, this is a more agile approach, more iterative and incremental. What we would do in this approach is plan a little. We would come up with a list of requirements, but not go into a huge amount of depth for all of them just yet. We would then choose a few of those requirements, put them into an iteration, and then deliver on those requirements. And while we're doing that, we tend to have a daily review, and this iteration typically lasts, say, 1 to 4 weeks. At the end of that iteration, then we have something to release or something releasable, and then we can give that to our stakeholders, to our customers. They can get some value from using that, and they can give us very important feedback that we can take on board before we tackle the next iteration. So one of the things to determine is which life cycle suits our project. And if you look at the card at the top of your screen, and also I'll put the link down below in the description, the next video that's coming out is an in-depth look at the difference between these two life cycles. For now, it's just to know that there are a couple of different life cycles: waterfall, agile, or if we take kind of a middle road, a hybrid lifestyle would be some kind of combination of these two. Another term you might have come across is Kanban. Well, some people say Kanban, but I prefer to say Kanban. A Kanban is a popular framework that helps teams manage their workload and improve efficiency. And you might have seen something that looks like this, which is a Kanban board. You can see on the left-hand side here a list of things to do. As capacity becomes available, someone would grab one of those, could be a post-it note or something on software, grab one of the to-do items, put it into the doing column, and then get going. When that's finished, take it and put it into the done column, and only then go and get something else from the to-do column. You could think of it as an inbox, a processing box, and an outbox. And key attributes of the Kanban approach is to manage work in progress. So we wouldn't want to have too many things piling up in our doing column. We rather want to get something out into the done column first before we add into the doing column. Rather let things wait in the to-do column. Let's have a look at a Gantt chart. This is a visual tool that displays a project schedule in the form of a bar chart. Just something like these examples you can see here. On the left-hand side, we can see a list of tasks. We have a timeline going across the top, and then each bar, you can see the length of the bar represents the start and the end of that task, according to the timeline that would go across the top. Here you can see a couple of examples just to illustrate that, and I'll just move myself out the way a bit so you can see both of those. So it's a nice visual tool that we can use. It's really good for communication with stakeholders, so everyone can see nice visual to see what's going on in the project. And what we can also do is use a tracking Gantt, which is another adding on to our Gantt chart, and we might have one color that says when something is planned, and then we can start putting something underneath and start changing the color as things are completed. So that can be really useful to keep track of our timelines. Gantt charts are used a little bit more in traditional waterfall projects, nothing to stop us using them in agile projects for our overall project. The previous tool we looked at, the Kanban board, tends to be used more in agile projects. Again, nothing to stop us using that in a waterfall project. Another common tool that you might come across is a work breakdown structure. This is a project management tool that breaks down a project into smaller, more manageable tasks. Those of you that have been watching my channel for a while might recognize this from a previous video that I did. Here's an example of how I do my YouTube videos. So at the top you can see the whole project. Then I break that down into the second level of items, title, research, script, and so on. And then again take each one of those and decompose them into smaller pieces. So it's really just trying to get things to their smallest pieces so that at the bottom level there we can plan things, estimate them, allocate resources to them, and then track to see how they're going and satisfyingly tick them off our list as we are finished. So that's a really useful tool. Again, traditionally used more in waterfall projects, nothing to stop us using this in agile projects. Those could be epics and user stories if we're using an agile approach. Right, let's look at number 9, a backlog. That's a prioritized list of requirements based on the stakeholders' needs. We tend to do this more in agile projects, but again, there's no project management police that's going to stop us using these in different life cycle projects as well. If we're using backlogs, let's have a look at this picture. We can see the big box here talks about product backlog, and it's got a list of backlog items 1 to 4. Typically what we would do then from the product backlog, which is our whole project requirements, we would take a subset of those into a sprint or iteration backlog. So here you can see we've taken items 1 and 2. We also generally keep these items in the product backlog sorted in order of value. So when we take the top 2 into our sprint backlog, it's because we know that we value those more currently than items 3 and 4. When we get into the sprint backlog, so we've got our 2 items, then we can further break those down into tasks. So backlog item 1, I've broken into 2 tasks, and then I've done the same with item 2. You might also think that looks a bit familiar, and yes, we could do this as a work breakdown structure, as we saw in the previous tip there as well. So again, we can mix and match things between different life cycles to suit our unique requirements and our preferences in our own projects. Number 10 is tolerance. So tolerance is the acceptable range of deviation between what we planned to do and what we actually do. So if you think of this picture here, the red would be our target, and that could apply to all sorts of things. It could be a time target or a cost target or other kinds of targets for our project. So the red is what we're aiming to do, but the blue circle around the outside is our wiggle room, our flexibility. So we could go beyond that target as long as we're still within the blue circle, and that's still within tolerance. And it would only be if we start encroaching on the edge of the blue circle that would send alerts and red flags and trigger us to go and take some action. So it's really useful if we have targets is to also have ranges or tolerances associated with those targets, just so that we can get on and keep things going without stopping if we minutely go over our target. By understanding these 10 essential project management terms, it can streamline your communication, make efficient use of scarce resources, and manage engagement with your stakeholders most effectively. If you found these tips helpful, please share it with someone else that you think might benefit from seeing them. Give the video a like, it really helps the channel and helps the videos get out to more people. Please comment below if you have any questions on the terms that we talked about, or if there's any other terms that you've come across that you'd like me to unpack in a future video. Remember, I said stay to the end, so please have a look in the description below where you can download a useful resource that can help you implement these terms into your projects with immediate effect. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.